Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how I achieved the watercolor effect for my Mother's Day animation. This is quite a simple technique, but I've got a few people asking me how I managed to get this style, so I'm going to run through these quick steps with you today. I manage this technique by animating an alpha channel over the top of my PNG sequence so that it gives the illusion that each frame has been painted. When I drew each frame for the Mother's Day animation, I created them on 1s, 2s, and 3s, so they change between them. For people who do not know what I'm talking about, 1s, 2s, or 3s refer to how long a single image holds for in relation to the frames per second. Since my animation switches between 1s, 2s, and 3s, that means that some of the frames are shown quicker if they're on 1s or slower if they're on 3s. To give the animation a stop motion effect, I have to make it look like each frame has been individually painted on a separate piece of watercolor paper. I'll do this by adding an ink texture to the colored layer, and to make it look like it's being painted, I'll change the texture each frame. This will require me to manually move the channel however many frames the image is going to be there for. So if the image is going to be there for 3 frames, I want the alpha channel to stay there for 3 frames. If it jitters across those 3 frames, it won't look as though it's been painted. It will look like it's been done in After Effects, which clearly it has been. But we really want to go for that traditional stop motion style. So we're going to be manually doing it for this little tutorial. There are different scripts that you can use, so you don't actually have to do it manually, or there's multiple ways that you can go around just creating this technique using like noise textures. Another thing you can also do is you can make up a composition that has an animated sequence of the alpha matte. That's another faster way of managing this kind of technique. But for this technique, I'm just going to be doing it manually. Okay, so now we're going to start our little example. So we're going to create a new composition. We're going to make sure that our settings are set to 1920 by 1080, and we're going to set this really quickly to 25 frames a second. Okay, perfect. So to begin with, we're just going to import just our watercolor paper texture. And we're also going to be importing our 2D animation. So we'll just import the outline for the time being. So at the moment you can't see it because it's like massive. So I'm just going to scale it down really quickly. I'm going to go 38.6%. And we're just going to make sure that the position is right. So we're probably going to go 966 by 543. Awesome. So once again, I've quickly animated this in AnimateCC. So we have our outline, and we also have a separate layer, which is just the solid. So for this, I wanted to animate them separately. So I want the base layer to resemble watercolor and the outline to look like it was more done in either felt tip pen or pencil. So we're just going to adjust the position of this again. So 966, so they match up. 3, and we're just going to obviously adjust the scale. And we're just going to drag this down. Perfect. Just going to have a quick little play. All right. Yeah, it's looking pretty basic. So we're just going to start adding our watercolor. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new composition, and I'll just call this watercolor for the time being. And what I'm going to do, I've already actually made this composition, but I'll just do this anyway. I'm going to drop in just a PNG of an ink texture. And I'm just going to make the background a white solid. Underneath, perfect. All right, cool. So we might just want to make this a little bit bigger. Yeah, that'll do. And what we're going to do is drag it into our composition that we just made. So we'll drag our watercolor composition over the top of our animation there, and clearly you can obviously see nothing now because it's over the top of the layers. What we're going to quickly do is transfer the ink texture over to the base color layer. We're going to do this by heading down to the bottom left-hand side and selecting Toggle Switches Modes. This will bring out your blending modes. From here, we're going to select the color layer and set its blending mode to Luma Inverted Matte. This means we're going to be using a luminance of the ink layer to make a matte. And at the moment, you can't see anything. So we're just going to scrub through really quickly, and it kind of pops up randomly. So you can see here that I'll just turn the outline off for the time being and just drag it. So we're creating an alpha of the blocked out color. Wherever the alpha is, the PNG sequences of the solid color are visible. Now, what we have to do now is, since the alpha isn't moving, but the blocked out color is, what I'd like to do is actually animate the alpha. So what I've done is just gone into the position and just moved the alpha around and scale it so it actually suits, where the image is. So what we're just going to do is I'm just going to key that, scale it in really quickly, and I'm going to move it. So that means that every time the color layer moves, I want the alpha to move. And when the 2D layer isn't moving, I want the alpha to stay still. Since this animation is trying to replicate a stop motion animation, we need it to look like each frame has been painted on. If the alpha moves around constantly, then we're going to lose the illusion that it's a stop motion. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this keyframe, and we're just going to paste it here. So it just stays the same. So it changes, and then once it moves again, we can move this down, maybe scale it up, rotate it, just scale it up again. Doesn't really matter. Okay, cool. Yep, awesome. And then we're just going to create another keyframe so it stays the same for those 2 frames. And then we're just going to position it over here. Cool, so the alpha kind of changes. All right. So you can see here how each of these frames are on 2s. So they change per second frame. So 2, and then this one goes. Well, this one's on 3. So we want to animate the alpha when the actual image is moving to give it that stop motion effect. That's why I chose to do it manually, because it switches between 2s and 1s and 3s constantly. So it just lets me keep a little bit of control when I'm animating in this process. So going to keyframe there again so it doesn't move. And you might do this 2 more times. Change it a little bit. Keyframe again. And then just change it again. Just give it a little bit of variety. Cool, and keyframe. So now we're just going to show this bit. So it's going to be really quick, but be able to have a quick little rundown of what it looks like. Okay, cool. The only downside to this is that you can kind of see, if you go through frame by frame, that it is the same ink texture. So you can easily change this by adding different ink textures and importing them in, and even making a PNG sequences where they jitter all over the place. Cool, looks like it's jittery, looks like it's kind of painted per frame, but there's still a few things that I really want to change about this. So at the moment, when we have a look at it, it has a really harsh edge. So with watercolor, usually has more of a softish edge. Yeah, this doesn't really look that nice at the moment. So what we're going to do is just quickly add a glow just to soften it up a bit. I might just adjust the threshold a little bit. go. Probably something around the lines of that. So it's a little bit better. Just makes the outlines just a little less harsh. Okay, perfect. So now that that is looking pretty nice, we are just going to grab the outline, put it over the top of our main color, and now you can see it's quite dark and it looks really weird in comparison. Doesn't look very pencil-y, doesn't look like it's a Sharpie at all. So what we're actually going to do to make it a little bit easier on ourselves, we're going to grab the alpha that we've currently animated. We're just going to copy and paste it, and we're going to add it to our outline. So we're just going to make the outline the same as the solid. So we're just going to make it a Luma inverted matte. So what this does is it gives it the same ink matte as the color layer. This means that the texture will appear on the outline now, so it will look like it's more hand-drawn. It also gives off this nice effect when the blending mode makes small portions of the color layer disappear. Since it's affected by the same alpha, the outline will disappear as well. So bits like that I really like, because it makes it look more natural. Okay, cool. And we are also going to probably just add the same glow effect that we've put on our solid to our outline as well. It's a little bit better. So the effect that I'm kind of going for with this kind of outline is the person has painted their watercolor kind of image and then traced over the top of their image with like a felt tip pen. Now usually when felt tip pen kind of touches watercolor, it kind of bleeds into itself a little bit. So that's the kind of style that I kind of wanted to go for with this. So if it does look quite blurry, you can obviously just not add a blur to it and just leave it as sharp as you want it to. But it's the kind of styled approach that I want to take. So I'm going to make it look a little bit more blurred. All right. Cool. So this is looking pretty nice. Now I'm just going to make probably 2 other adjustments to make this look even better. So my first adjustment is I'm going to grab this solid and I'm probably going to change the mode and make it a multiply. So by making it a multiply, you'll actually be able to see the watercolor paper. So it makes it look 10 times better. It looks like it's actually painted on the paper itself. So that's a nice little added technique. And finally, this actually makes a world of difference. I'm going to quickly just scale up, probably just like 120. Scale up the background really quickly. And what I'm going to do is, it's going to be manually again, so this might drive a few people insane, but I'm going to be animating the position. So what I want to happen is every single time that the little image moves, I want the background to move. So it kind of gives the illusion that there is a person kind of painting out each image and replacing each image on a different piece of paper. So, which usually happens with traditional hand-drawn or traditional stop-motion animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just move the arrows around, just change the position really quickly, not too intense. All right, sweet. So I've just changed it there. I'm just going to copy and paste this frame, put it along here. And then I'm just going to move it again, just a little bit slightly, doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be overly precise as long as it's moved, basically. It doesn't have to be overly drastic. Okay, cool. So we're just gonna continue this really quickly. And since it doesn't move for 3 frames, we're just gonna go to 3rd frame, paste that so it doesn't move. Going to move this again, make sure we don't get any black borders. Oops. Cool. And we're just going to continue this out. Okay, so this isn't really going to add a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it's going to add that little bit of extra detail that's going to make it look more genuine. So once we replay it, you can kind of see the small amount of animation that the watercolor paper behind the animation is actually making, but it makes it look as though each frame and essentially each frame has been painted and manually kind of removed. So to make this technique probably a little bit better, you can also add noise. You can add flicker to it so it actually looks like it is a stop motion animation. You can also get there's a particular kind of dirt sequence that you can get, and you can overlay the top of it so it looks like there's a little bit of grunge every frame kind of appearing. That adds a really nice kind of stop motion effect to it, because if anyone out there has actually worked with stop motion, especially when you're working with paper and stop motion, it gets a little bit dirty, so you can actually have a little eraser rubbings and stuff kind of pop up per frame. So things like that actually add a lot to the animation. It makes it look more genuine. All right, cool. So that's essentially how I made my little animation and how I used alpha to essentially make a watercolor texture. Thank you for following this After Effects tutorial. For more tutorials, please check out our Zulo 8 website.